Hello everyone. Good morning. Hi Priya. How are you? Good morning Pratisha. I'm good. So looking at the chat box right now. Okay. All right. So good morning. I welcome you all to Gradeup and I welcome you to this editorial analysis session where we are trying to improve our reading skills and our, of course, RC solving skills as well. Okay. So let's start our session for today. As you know, so those of you who attended yesterday, I am Nikita. I am a VARC expert and these are my credentials, right? So, yes, let me just catch you right here. I didn't see any comments yesterday. I asked you to comment your main idea of the article that you read. Nobody did that. You did ask me some tone, that what was the tone of the article, so that's great. But then, why didn't anyone submit the main idea of the of the article that we discussed yesterday? Tell me. Hmm. So, trust me, uh, just listening to what I say is not going to be enough. Okay, you have to practice it, you have to implement it. Okay, that's how you become better readers, through practice, through implementation. So, whatever I tell you, I try myself to not give you a lot of homework. Okay, I just asked you to read one article and then give its main idea. And it's a very topical thing that I gave you. Okay, in the Hindu, in the Guardian, it's a very hot topic. The Communist Party of China completing their 100 years, right? So it's going to help you in GK. It's going to prepare you for your PIs as well. Okay, so yes, I'll be giving you one particular set of homework today as well. And this thing that I gave you yesterday, remember I told you you have to do this for 2 long weeks. So this was not a one-time homework that I gave you yesterday. So you will do today's homework plus you will do yesterday's homework. Okay, all right. So let's begin. This was yesterday's homework discussion. I wanted to catch hold of you right in the beginning, right? So what's our agenda for today? Let's see that. First, of course, this is going to be our agenda in every class, right? We will learn to understand a piece of text, okay? We'll see how to approach it, what all to focus on more, right? These things. The specific agenda for today is that we'll focus more on the relationships between various key ideas. So yesterday we focused on how to derive key ideas. Today we'll focus on how they're related to each other, right? Then, once we have found that out, we will try to develop a skeleton or a structure or a flow chart sort of a thing of those key ideas. Right? When we do that, we'll end up, of course, developing what we call a mind map of a piece of text. Okay, any piece of text it could be. Okay, and lastly, to use the relationships and the mind map to answer structure related questions. We'll learn to apply it also. Right? What's the use of what we are doing? We'll learn that. Of course, we'll discuss the main idea, we'll discuss the tone of the article. That is something, as I said, it will go in every session. But this is the specific agenda for today. Okay, all right. Any queries? Okay, yes, we have one. A link. Okay, yes, I'll try it today. So basically, when I tried to send you a message yesterday, there was some issue. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll post the link in the comment section. That I'll be able to do very conveniently. Okay, so right after the session, I'll go to the comment section, post the link there. Right? So Pratishta is asking, while reading any piece of article, should we search for an unknown word side by side? You tell me, what should I do? Others, yes, answer Pratishta's query. So, see, when we are trying to increase our speed, let's say, or when we are trying to read in a flow, something that is required when we read our RC passages in the exam, that's when I would not recommend you to look for the meaning side by side. Okay, because it inhibits your reading, right? So, uh, uh, try to infer the meaning contextually. Look at the surrounding words and then try to guess, okay, what would this word mean given the surrounding words, given the context? If you're able to do it, well and good. If not, don't be too bothered about it. Proceed. Okay, once you're done with the article, then look up the meaning of that word. That's what I would recommend. Unless, of course, let's say you're not reading for an RC passage preparation, but you want to know more about a subject, right? So let's say I want to learn some tech related thing tomorrow, okay, some technology, and I am studying that. So there, when I come across new terms, I'll definitely search them side by side to understand that piece of text. So when I'm focused solely on learning something, then yes, we do it. But here, because we have to improve our reading habit also, our reading speed, and we have to make ourselves used to a time constraint, we should not look up the meaning side by side. Okay? After the Aniket, after the entire article ends, then search for it. Okay? All right. Okay, okay. I know you're missing Sanojam sir. He's taken some amazing sessions. Okay, I'll try that I reach there if you're patient with me, right? Uh, Pratishta is saying there are so many things mentioned in the Guardian CCP article. How to summarize it in one line? Okay, so Pratishta, you post whatever comes to your mind. Okay, if you're not able to summarize it in one line, make it 2 lines, 3 lines. Okay, but start. Do that. Okay, gradually you will see that you're able to abridge your main ideas even more. It will happen gradually. Okay, all right, coming to our slide again. So this is our agenda for today. I hope it is clear. Okay, so this is our class schedule for YouTube for today, right? You can note this down. So sessions from various sections planned for you: quant, LRDI, right? GK also, which is useful for your entrance exams. Okay, so take a note of this. Click a picture, screenshot, whatever you want to take. Okay, this is a session that is happening on 3rd July. So 3rd July is tomorrow, right? So you should attend this at 3 p.m. if you're targeting MAH CET. It will be very useful, right? This is for everybody because I think all of you will be taking CAT, right? So this is at 7:30 p.m. on 4th July, and look at the content that we are going to discuss. It's relevant for everybody: QA, VA, DILR, GD, interviews. Okay, so do attend these sessions. Right. Now let me see if you've said something. Okay. Now, today we'll focus on passage structure, right? So, as I said yesterday, we focused on main idea. Today, let's focus on the nuances of how the key ideas have been presented. Okay? So, what all should I pay attention to in that, in how the key ideas have been presented? Note the sequence of ideas. Okay, that these key ideas, what is their sequence? Because a lot of lessons lie in that sequence also. Usually, you would want to talk about the most important thing first. Then you would sometimes talk about one thing, and then that one thing would lead to the other thing. That one key idea would lead to the other key idea. So when you notice the sequence, you realize their importance, their hierarchy, and you are also able to establish the relationships. That is our agenda for today, right? Then transition words. I think this is something that you already know. We have to focus a lot on the transition words. Okay, when I begin a paragraph with further, that means I want to now add to what I've already said in a previous paragraph. When I begin it with a but, that means I'm probably contradicting something that I said earlier. So notice these transitions, how one idea gives way to the other. Let's say you mentioned one idea first and then you said, however. That means this new key idea is going to contradict it mildly, contradict the previous key idea mildly. So transitions will also help you to find that relationship between the key ideas. Okay. Next thing, examine the relationships among different ideas or parts of the passage. So very related to this, right? Also notice the relationship between the ideas and the details that support those ideas. For instance, if I say that MI's new mobile phone is good, right? This is an idea because this is in the nature of an opinion. Now I back it up with some details. Its camera is of a very high quality. Let's say I name that quality, okay? Whatever technical specifications are there. Let's say I name them. So this was my key idea that MI's mobile phone is good. How I supported it? Using evidence. Okay, I cited evidence. So my way of supporting it was evidence. Your way of supporting it could be, let's say, an example. Somebody else's way of supporting it could be through a story. Someone else might not support it with any facts. They may cite some authority that somebody has said, so that is why it is good. Right? So different people support their ideas in different ways. And understanding how an idea has been supported will help you to answer your logical structure questions. जो बाद में आएंगे. Because there I can ask you, okay, why has this sentence been written? So you should know the purpose of this sentence. Okay, this sentence is serving as an evidence for our idea, for this and this idea. Right? So notice these things. Okay. And I think I've discussed this. Observe the tools used in building the story. Is the author using an evidence? Is the author giving examples to support the key ideas? Is the author making comparisons? That, okay, this works there, so it will work here as well. Is the author making this is called an analogy, making comparisons, right? Or is the author merely speculating? बस guess करे जा रहा है, right? So notice these. Together, they will help you to form a skeleton, a structure of the passage. I understand that right now it will appear that this is going to take a lot of our time. How do we do that in the exam? So we have to get used to it at home right now so that this entire process gradually becomes mental. A lot of you have been doing a lot of this subconsciously already. You just don't know it, right? So we are just trying to, as I said yesterday, we're just trying to formalize things a bit. Okay? All right. So let's see. Okay. So this is an article. I won't tell you the source of this article, right? So we'll try to guess it later on. Okay. Uh, let's start reading. This is simpler than yesterday's article because yesterday I picked up something that was from an e-magazine, right? So it was a niche magazine, psyche.co. Okay, so this is relatively simpler. Let's see it. But yes, it has some important insights in terms of structure of the article for you, right? We asked for workers, we got human beings instead, was how the Swiss author Max Frisch summed up the guest worker schemes that helped wealthy European countries rebuild their economies after the Second World War. So after the Second World War, wealthy European countries invited workers to work in their countries. Okay, now they call them guest workers. And the author begins using this quote, we asked for workers, we got human beings instead. Okay, this quip, this witty remark, his quip lives on because it expresses the absurdity of societies that treat immigration as purely a question of economic need. Right? So these wealthy European countries were also doing the same. No, they were treating immigration as just an economic question. They didn't realize that they will get human beings and not just workers, right? So they reduce people. So basically societies tend to reduce people to units that can be moved here and there as capital sees fit, as money sees fit, right? So this is our first paragraph. Now, if I ask you right in the beginning, why has the author used this quote? Absurdity is something that's illogical. So, yes, tell me why has the author used this quote in the beginning? Hmm. Immigration is when you migrate, when you move, shift from one, it could be from one country to another, that is external migration or international migration, or as we see that internal migrants crisis of the last year. So these were migrants who had shifted within the country, but from one city to another, one state to another. That is internal migration. Here we are talking about international immigration because we are talking about countries here, right? Okay. The author is not supportive of immigration. No. To support a point in the paragraph. Yes. So, Pratishta, what is that point that the author is trying to support? Right. Aniket says it expresses the absurdity of societies. He wanted to emphasize on the main idea given in the opening quote. Okay. Okay. Quite there. Uh, so the author has used this quote in the beginning because you're right. He wanted to emphasize, he wanted to introduce the topic of discussion here that a lot of times societies they treat immigration as purely a question of economic need. Right. So to basically introduce this idea, the author begins with this quote. So this is how your structure questions will look like. Okay, so they'll ask you the why of things. Why has this sentence been written? Why does the author use this quote? Right? So we are going to delve into this why. Okay, so first paragraph done. However partial and flawed it may be. So I want to highlight something here when I use however here. However. So I am not using it to contradict something that has been said earlier. No, that's not the idea. Here, however, means no matter how much. No matter how much. This is one of the meanings of however. Okay. So no matter how much partial and flawed it may be, the EU system of internal free movement. Okay, so probably now we have narrowed down to what we want to discuss. We've started talking about EU here, right? So no matter how partial and flawed it may be, EU's system of internal free movement is an attempt to escape that trap. Which trap? The one that we have discussed in the previous paragraph. So that trap is that basically people when different when foreign countries invite you to work for them, sometimes they just treat you as if you are an economic good, right? Sometimes they treat you that you are just units that can be simply moved from here to there. So EU with its internal free movement, you know what European Union is, and what's the concept of a European Union? Okay. Hmm. European Union. It's basically a union of, I don't know the exact number, I don't remember that, of a number of European countries that have free markets. Okay, what I mean by free markets, basically among themselves, there are no market restrictions as such. You can easily sell goods from one country to another. They have free movement of human resources also. So people can move from one country to another without a lot of restrictions. In fact, it's like moving from one state of India to another, right? So they joined hands because, see, first is that these countries are small. That's one reason. But another main reason was that after the world wars, no, there was a lot of infighting amongst these countries. There was a lot of unhealthy competition. So in order to remove that unhealthy competition, they joined hands. That, let all our people move freely, let all our goods move freely. Let's not have those restriction customs and all that movement from one country of goods to another usually has. Okay, so that is European Union. Okay, yes, 27. Thank you. The number keeps on changing, no? Because again, that's what we'll come to. One point here, one major issue here is Brexit. Let's come to it. Right. So, however partial and flawed it may be, the EU system of internal free movement is an attempt to escape that trap. In stripping away the obstacles and restrictions that continue to govern migration for most of the world, it is an acknowledgement that when people move, they develop new attachments to the places they come to call home and to the people they come to call neighbors. So basically, they remove these obstacles and restrictions, as I said, that usually are present when people move from one country to another, when they migrate from one country to another. And this was, in a way, EU's way of acknowledging that, these people who are moving to our country, they are not some foreign people. Now they call our country their home. Now they call our people their neighbors, right? And a wager that the best way to grow a shared sense of belonging is to make that process as easy as possible. So they took a chance here. Why am I calling this a wager? I'm saying EU took a chance and tried to experiment with this, that the best way to grow a shared sense of belonging is to, remove all those obstacles and hurdles that immigrants usually face, right? But this is just for member nations, not for other immigrants. So I hope you've got these two paragraphs. Very simple so far, right? Brexit is, yes, Britain's exit from the European Union. Absolutely, right? Uh, yes, they don't have trade boundaries. Very good, Aniket. Correct. Okay. Uh, will this help in MAH CET? Yes, this will help in MAH CET because again, check the past year papers. We have had articles on business and economics. We've had articles on politics as well. So this touches upon all of those, right? Okay. Is second paragraph contrasting with the first? Tell me. Is the second paragraph contrasting with the first? So basically, the first paragraph talks about a problem that was there after the Second World War when the European countries tried to rebuild their nation. Then the author says that the EU was in a way a solution to that. Although it's a flawed trade union, yet it was in a way a solution to that problem. Okay, so it's not a contrast as such. Okay, then wager does not mean debt. Wager means a bet. Okay, that's why I said that they took a chance, they took a bet. Okay, coming to these two paragraphs now. This month marks the point at which we will start to see some of the first concrete results of the UK's decision to abandon these principles. Which principles? These principles, the one that we've discussed. So it's actually been it's been some time since Brexit was done, and they are still in the process of facing the repercussions or facing the consequences of that. So it says this month marks that point at which we'll start to see some of the first concrete results of the UK's decision to exit the EU. EU citizens resident in the UK. So we are talking about non-UK EU citizens जो UK के नहीं है but EU के हैं and they're living in the UK. They are meant to have applied to the government settlement scheme. So there's a settlement scheme that the government has launched for them. They are meant to have applied to the government settlement scheme before the end of June in order to continue to enjoy the rights they had before Brexit. So the government told them that, okay, we are not chucking you out, okay, you have a chance. We have a settlement scheme here, you apply to it, and you will continue to enjoy some of the rights that you had before the Brexit. Okay. Those who have not applied will be deemed to be living in the country unlawfully and will be subject, in theory, to all the deterrent measures UK immigration system has to offer. So, the negative consequence of not abiding by this. Okay. In some respects, the EU settlement scheme has been a technical and administrative triumph. So when we say in some respects, why I highlighted this, whenever we begin a sentence or whenever we use in some respects in a sentence, that means we think that there are other respects in which this thing may not have been as successful. That means probably we think that, okay, this is the case to an extent only. We know the negatives of it also. So that's why I highlighted this. Right? Because we are noticing the structure, we are noticing the transitions. That's why. Now, more than 5 million people have applied since the scheme opened 2 years ago, with a large majority of the applications processed quickly and successfully. So this is how the scheme has been a technical and administrative triumph. Okay, now see, although we'll do this in detail later, but again, I'm trying to make you notice the relationships. If I just give you these two sentences, okay, what is the key idea and what is the supporting detail? Triumph is victory. Hmm. These two sentences, key idea. If I ask you what is the idea, what is the opinion, and what is the supporting detail? Hmm. Waiting, waiting, waiting. Okay. Okay, I think there's some lag. Right. So basically, this is the supporting detail, right? On the basis, this is one of the basis for saying that it has been a technical and administrative triumph, right? So although this relationship was, yes, although this relationship was easy, yet when we are reading a big passage, no, we tend to miss out on some of these relations because we are very focused on the details. So the idea of today's class is that we notice such relationships, that okay, see, this is the key idea, now this is supporting detail. Okay, now I have highlighted this in yellow for a particular reason. I'll tell you. People who receive settled status are given a new digital-only form of proof. Okay, a test run perhaps for the slick, high-tech way in which the British state would like to interact with its own citizens in future. The Home Office, the department administering the scheme, has been at pains to show an open and friendly face throughout, in stark contrast to its usual mode of operation. So I highlighted this bit for its tone. Okay, because what I noticed was that while the author is appreciating the EU settlement scheme, he is appreciating it in a way that okay, he's not very happy with it, but okay, he's acknowledging that ठीक है, कुछ benefits तो हैं, right? So that's why see, in some respects, then even when the author mentions this digital only form of proof, while this is progress, this is something to be appreciated, but the adjectives the author uses, slick. Slick is also sometimes used for something that's smooth, but it's insincere. Okay, so slick, high-tech way in which the British state would like to interact with its own citizens in future. Then when the author talks about the Home Office, see, he is ideally stating something positive, that they are trying to show an open and friendly face. But look at the language. It has been at pains to show an open and friendly face throughout. That means the author is saying उनको बहुत problem हो रही है पर उन्हें करना पड़ रहा है ये. So even while appreciating the scheme, the author is very, in a way, reluctantly appreciative. Okay. And the author is there also trying to highlight that there might be flaws even behind this. Okay. So such words tell you a lot about the author's attitude towards the issue. That's why I highlighted this, because this will help you to gauge the tone of the author as far as this settlement scheme is concerned. Right? Okay. And didn't get the last line. Um, the last line, the Home Office, which is probably their immigration office, right? The department administering, yes, okay, it has been mentioned here, the department administering the scheme. Okay, so this department is taking care of this EU settlement scheme. It has been at pains to show an open and friendly face throughout. It's trying very hard to actually present itself as friendly, right? Which is actually in stark contrast to how it usually functions. Usually it's not very friendly. That's what the author is saying. Okay. So in the yellow part, the author is uh, telling us that how it has been a technical and administrative triumph. It is again supporting. Again, वो support कर रहा है हमारे key idea को. So, okay, I have to highlight this. This bit is our key idea. ये वाला जो part है, ये हमारा key idea है. This is supporting detail, this is supporting detail. But even in this support, the author is reluctant. That's what I want to show you. The author is trying to, the author's words show us that he thinks that this is something that's happening on the face of it. ऊपर ऊपर से ये चल रहा है. The author thinks that this is a bit superficial. Right? I hope you get this. Okay, so we have looked at the key idea here. We have looked at, okay, what are the supporting details? So in a way, we have looked at the whole structure of this paragraph. We've also looked at the tone of the author in this paragraph, right? Now, so far what we have covered, so far we've seen that, okay, the EU system, whatever, no matter how flawed it was, it actually helped the workers escape this trap of being seen as something that's an economic unit. Now that Brexit has happened, we see some of its repercussions. Okay, then the author talks about this government settlement scheme, the EU settlement scheme, and says that fine, it has been a technical and administrative triumph in some respects. Now, on the face of it, again, see, on the face of it, this would seem to honor the promise made by the Vote Leave campaign. So Vote Leave campaign was the campaign run there, right? Because they wanted to persuade people to vote for leaving the European Union, right? So this promise, they actually, when they were leaving, they made the promise in 2016 that there would be no change for EU citizens living in the UK after Brexit. Okay, and that they would be treated no less favorably than they are at present. This was a promise that was made, and it's saying that this success, the administrative and technical success of the EU settlement scheme, it would seem to honor this promise. जब successful हो रही है, तो that means promise honor हो रहा है शायद, on the face of it, right? Yet, so I told you, notice the transition words. Yet, now begins the author's view, and the author contradicts this. Yet, this can't hide the fact that several million people have become enmeshed in a punitive and persistently dysfunctional immigration system. Okay, heavy words, right? So it says this scheme can't hide the fact that several million people, they have become trapped in a punitive means something that punishes. In a punitive, see, it has punishment ka puny in it, no? Punitive and persistently dysfunctional. So this immigration system has been dysfunctional, that until now they had largely been able to avoid. So until now they had been to avoid this dysfunctional immigration system, but no longer, because the UK has exited the European Union, right? So the author now makes it very clear what his opinion, his or her opinion about the matter is, right? Okay, let's see if you have any queries. Okay, and not coming. Okay. On the face of it, Kisano, it shows that what I'm going to say now, I mean to say that, okay, ऐसा लग रहा है, and then I'm going to contrast it. So on the face of it is a marker that shows you that the author is perhaps going to contrast this thing that is being that he or she is stating after on the face of it, right? So we are saying ऐसा लग रहा है, but ऐसा है. ऐसा लग तो ऐसा रहा है, but actually में ऐसा है. Okay, so contrast it shows. That's why I highlighted them. Okay, now the scheme is a danger. अब उसने बिल्कुल outrightly the author has given her view. Okay, so from here the author begins the criticism. Okay, and here the criticism becomes very outright. The scheme is a danger, above all, for the many people at risk of falling through the cracks. Okay, about 400,000 applicants are stuck in an administrative backlog, while an unknown number of people, one estimate puts it at about 150,000. Okay, there's some typo here, have still not applied. Okay. Now, the point is, again, this is the idea here. ये वाला part idea है. This is the scheme is a danger for people who can fall through the cracks, okay, who can actually be, they can actually become unlawful citizens, okay, in a stroke. And this is the evidence now, okay, we are using these facts to support this. About 400,000 applicants are stuck in an administrative backlog, 150,000 have not even applied, okay, so I'm using this as a supporting detail to support this. So this is evidence. Okay, people in the latter group are immediately subject to some of the hostile environment policies that stalk the lives of migrants from outside the EU. So these people, these 150,000 who haven't applied, they can actually face this hostile environment. Very soon they can face this hostile environment because in the EU, migrants, they do face such a hostile environment. That's what the author says. Okay. They lose the right to work or rent a home and will be charged for non-emergency NHS treatment. Again, this is a detail that is being used to support this key idea. So, ये सब disadvantages. So, basically, this entire thing is a criticism of the scheme, and basically, it's telling us how the scheme is a danger, right? So, I chose Brexit because it's a very global topic and not just something that's relevant to the European Union or Europe. Right? Now, yet, so okay, fine. Here the author was criticizing. Now the author says yet. So that's quite a mystery, no? First, the author came to this criticism, and now again the author is saying yet. So what does she want to say? Let's see. Yet, while these technical problems are far from trivial, far from, let's say, frivolous, far from something minor, there is something larger and more diffuse at stake too. So, this is a very, very important sentence. Okay. And you will get to know this when we attempt the questions. Yet, while these technical problems are far from trivial, there's something larger and more diffuse at stake too. No matter how much, again, however much, no matter how much, the government might want to sugarcoat it. The process of leaving the EU has also been a process of turning neighbors into strangers. The process of leaving the EU has also been the process of turning neighbors into strangers. So this is the larger point that the author is trying to make. To some extent, this was perhaps inevitable. होना ही था तो अगर आप exit करोगे तो European Union. But it has been deepened by political choices since 2016. But it has been deepened by political choices since 2016. Despite the promises of the Leave campaign, the campaign run to persuade people to leave, Theresa May's decision. So they promised a lot of things, right? For instance, they promised that the EU citizens will not be treated any less favorably than they are at present. But despite these promises, Theresa May's decision, okay, Theresa May took this decision to not to guarantee the rights of EU citizens before triggering a certain provision, Article 50 in 2017. In order to use those rights as the bargaining chip in negotiations. So, although she promised that nothing would change, but then she didn't guarantee their rights. Let's say you don't know what Article 50 is. That's okay. You don't need to. Okay. We just need to know this, that she didn't guarantee them and she triggered some Article 50 which would be detrimental to them. Okay. And why she didn't guarantee these in advance? Because she wanted to use this for bargaining with the EU. देखो अगर तुम ऐसा करोगे तो हम गारंटी कर देंगे नहीं तो नहीं करेंगे. So that's the idea. So this act of Theresa May, this established the principle that the millions affected did not, in the government's view, have an automatic right to belong. So when she did this, this established this principle. Okay, that these millions did not, according to the government, didn't have a right to belong. Right? So this is how our passage is flowing. Now I want to explain things to you, but then I don't want to even give away the answers. So we have a question on the structure of the passage later on, right? So you decide how this paragraph relates to the previous paragraphs, and I mean how these paragraphs relate with each other. I'll not tell you this, right? I'm proceeding to the next one. So yes, the last slide that we have. Let's see if you have any questions so far. Just a second. Correct, Priya. Sugarcoat. When we sugarcoat something, we try to be polite about it, say it in sweeter words, but actually the reality is grim only. The reality is bad only, right? Okay. So the last two paragraphs. This has been reinforced by the drip feed. Drip feed means something that happens gradually. So it's a good expression here. Drip feed, something that happens gradually. Or making progress gradually. Okay. This has been reinforced by the drip feed of right-wing populism over the years. Right-wing populism over the years. Now see, some knowledge of politics will definitely help you in the articles, in the passages that, just a second. So some knowledge of these articles, this will definitely help you. Okay. Some knowledge of politics. As I said, this will definitely help you in these articles, right? Right-wing populism. So if you know what are right-wing parties, this will help you. Okay. And of course, you should know the meaning of populism. Yes. What does populism mean? Tell me. Hmm. I am getting your comments, Priya. I read this that this is an evidence, and I told this to you that yes, you're right. This is an evidence. That one, I mean, जो पिछला हम कर रहे थे. Okay. Yes, I am asking you, what is populism? Okay. So populist, something that is populist. See, it's related to popular or population, right? So populism means when you frame policies or you say things that try to appeal to the masses. You're trying to appeal to the masses. Sometimes this word is used negatively. In fact, largely it has a negative connotation only. When you frame policies just to appeal to the masses, they may not have underlying substance, they may be wrong essentially, but you are doing it because you want to appeal to the masses. Okay, now right-wing parties or left-wing parties, centrist parties. So this is your homework today. You have to find out what are leftist parties, what are centrist parties, and what are rightist parties. Okay, we will discuss this tomorrow. Left, center, and right. Okay, right now try to understand it from the context that what is this right-wing populism. Okay, so this has been reinforced by the drip feed of right-wing populism over the years. From the then Home Secretary Amber Rudd's proposal in late 2016, what did she propose? Let's see. To make companies publish data on the number of foreign workers they employ. So they wanted companies to publish data on the number of foreign workers that they employ. Why isolate them like that? To Boris Johnson's claim while electioneering in December 2019 that EU citizens had for too long been able to treat the UK as though it's basically part of their own country, right? So this statement, they are treating the UK as though it's their own country. So again, sort of alienating, isn't it? Again, alienating the foreigners, right? So this has a clue for you, a slight mild clue for you to what right wing might mean. Okay. The cumulative effect, as one campaigner for EU citizens' rights recently put it to me, is a feeling that the government have made us foreigners. Okay, so the effect of all this has been that EU citizens now feel that the government has turned them into foreigners, right? Okay, another question here. This is a grammar question though. How come am I using have with government? Right. So this is one of your homework. This is your second homework. We will discuss this tomorrow. Why am I using have with government? Okay, doesn't this defy subject verb agreement? ये तो plural है, have to, right? We'll discuss this. And I remember I also asked you to find out about stoicism. So we'll be discussing this once we finish this article. Okay. So, अच्छा ये समझ में आ गया. In the previous paragraph, we talked about how there's a larger problem here. Okay, the process of leaving the EU has been the process of turning neighbors into strangers. And here we talk about some political things. Again, I'm not explaining this in detail, the relationship, because I have framed a question on that. Okay, right. So much of the Brexit debate has been caught up in technicalities or factionalism. Or factionalism. Yes, factions. When, within a political party, there are certain people who don't agree with the policies of the majority, practices of the majority. Okay, so, and they protest against it. That is called a faction. Okay, what happened with AAP when it was formed? So after a while, Yogendra Yadav and they formed their own party, no, Swaraj Andolan, right? So this is factionalism, an example of factionalism. So much of the Brexit debate has been caught up in technicalities or factionalism that it's been easy to dismiss this central point. Okay, all right, that we have been just caught up in the technicalities when it comes to the Brexit debate. We have just been caught up in the in this factionalism, infighting of the policies, or minority disagreeing with the majority. That it's been easy to dismiss this central point. What is that? However smooth, no matter how smooth the transition could have been, it has always been, it was always going to be a moment of loss, one that intimately affects the lives and identities of millions of people who call the UK their home. It is something that will need to be addressed in the years to come, right? So this was our entire article. Okay, I have, of course, taken an excerpt only. Okay, I deleted some of the paragraphs in between because it was a 1,000 plus words article, right? These are about 800, I believe. Okay, so any queries in understanding the article? Right. Right wing is not the ruling party. No, it's a political ideology, left, center, right. I want you to find out what it entails. Details क्या है उन ideologies की? Okay, any queries? So let's see a question. This will help me to understand whether when I was reading the article and I was showing you connections, were you able to form a skeleton of the article in your mind? Okay, so let's look at this question. Right. Attempt it and tell me the answer. The organization of the passage means how the thoughts of the author have been arranged in the passage, the structure of the passage. Attempt this and tell me the answer. Okay, good. Others? So when I say good, I'm just encouraging you to respond more. It may not be the correct answer, okay? Okay, good. Okay. 5 of you have answered, and all of you are absolutely correct. Okay. Now, the author is, yes, first the author is highlighting the problems with the scheme, establishing that, okay, fine, there are problems with the scheme before making the broader central argument. What is that broader argument? Is that the process of leaving the EU has also been a process of turning neighbors into strangers, right? So that there are millions who have been affected, okay? And the government's view is that they probably don't have an automatic right to belong. And look at this last paragraph. To one of you, it was not clear. Shubham asked, so much of the Brexit debate has been caught up in technicalities or factionalism that it's been easy to dismiss this central point. What is this central point? ये है author का central argument here. No matter how smooth the transition could have been, the transition from being a part of the EU to not being a part of the EU, it was always going to be a moment of loss. Why? Because when Britain exited the EU, a lot of people, a lot of EU citizens who were living in the UK, their life was affected because they were calling UK their home, but now they suddenly have to apply for the settlement scheme, right? So this loss that they are experiencing, this not a financial loss, I mean broadly, but this loss of identity in a way, it is something that will need to be addressed in the years to come, right? So this is what the last paragraph means. Okay, uh, some of you say D also. Right, let's look at why D is not the answer. It analyzes a specific scheme, okay, and draws a generalized conclusion from it. Has the generalized conclusion been drawn from the scheme? First of all, the tone is more critical. Now, even if I agree to this, let's say I agree to the first part. Okay, I agree to this. But the conclusion, the generalized central point isn't a generalization of, ये जो central point है वो इसका generalization नहीं है. In fact, the author uses yet to introduce this. So the author is saying that, okay, these are the technical problems, but there is a larger problem. So the author is not drawing a generalized conclusion anywhere. Right? So D is incorrect. Okay, let's look at A and B also quickly, although you've marked the correct answer. It highlights the concrete problems with the scheme, okay, and then analyzes some of the finer, more general ones. No, we haven't just analyzed the scheme here. We are not looking at the finer, more general problems with the scheme towards the latter part of the article. Factually incorrect. Begins by criticizing a scheme and then amplifies this criticism. So it's not that only the scheme's criticism has been amplified, has been made bigger. The author has come to another criticism, which is the broader central. Okay, so distorted, eliminated. Right? C is our answer. Very good. I hope now the last paragraph is clear to you. Okay. All right. Very good, Aniket. Yes, it is an article excerpt from the Guardian. Okay, very good. I wanted you to guess this. It was slightly easy to guess because we are talking about Brexit in such detail, right? And I told you that the language is simpler. So there was a high probability that this would be from a newspaper, right? Someday we'll also do these questions of likely source of the passage, right? Okay. So I hope this is clear to you how to answer such broader structure question which is based on the entire passage. Now let's look at a narrower structure question. Okay, ये answer है. Okay. Which of the following best describes the purpose of the second last paragraph? The second last paragraph. Let's go to the second last paragraph once. So this is the second last paragraph. Okay, this has been reinforced. Read this. If you want me to go to some other slide, let me know, I will. And then we'll answer the question. Okay, so I hope you've read it. I am now going to the question. Okay, now read the question carefully. Which of the following best describes the purpose? Basically, I'm talking about the why of this paragraph, the function that this paragraph is serving in the passage, right? Look at the options and tell me. Uh, okay, 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 okay. I've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 responses, 7, all right. And I'm getting pretty mixed responses this time. Okay, let's see. Second last paragraph. This has been reinforced. I told you, see, the purpose, why do I write a paragraph? Maybe it is adding to a previous point, a previous idea. Maybe it is contradicting a previous idea. Maybe it is not related to a previous idea. Maybe it is introducing a new idea. Maybe it is simply emphasizing what has been said earlier. Neither adding nor subtracting, nothing, just emphasizing. So these are the whys of why we write something, why I would separate this information into one particular unit, because it contains one idea, okay, a key idea, and this key idea is supporting or contradicting or weakening or emphasizing some previous idea, let's say, or introducing a new idea. So when I say this has been reinforced, has been strengthened, okay, by the drip feed, by the gradual progress of right-wing populism over the years. So what has been strengthened? What has been reinforced? Let's see the previous paragraph. This principle. The principle that the millions affected did not have an automatic right to belong. Whose view is this? The government's view. So the right-wing populism here has reinforced this principle. So the purpose of this paragraph is to present a point that supports this principle further. Okay. So that's why I gave this question, and I deliberately made these options like this, because what happens is, I'll tell you, when we ask students this question, no, they start looking at the meaning of the para, the content of the para, basically. Students start looking at the content of the para and mark the answer that matches the content. So in that case, A also would be the answer, right? Because yes, we are showing instances, but this is not the purpose why this paragraph has been written. Para इसलिए नहीं लिखा है. Para इसलिए लिखा है so that I can tell this, to show how right-wing populism has further strengthened a government view. The view of the government that those people did not automatically have a right to belong. ठीक है, so B is the answer here. Let's see C. To show how even some important figures have indulged in right-wing populism over the years. The focus is not on the stature of the people. The focus is on how political choices, remember the previous paragraph said that the political choices that were made since 2016, they further deepened this alienation. So this paragraph is supporting that idea that government ka view hai that they don't belong. Okay. So it's not, the stress is not on the fact that those were important people. Then, to show how Brexit has resulted in a major loss to a large number of EU citizens, this is not at all something that is the purpose of this paragraph. In fact, I, in a way, picked up this line from the next paragraph. Okay, so I picked up this from here that it has affected. It was always going to be a moment of loss. Okay, I picked it up from there. इस paragraph का purpose है to tell you that along with the political choices, there were some comments like this. There was this ideology that was operating that further strengthened the government's view. Okay, is this clear to you? Any query you can ask me. Okay, perfect then, right? So just remember that whenever you answer these questions, you don't just have to pay attention to the content, you also have to pay attention to the context, the surrounding paras or the surrounding sentences. If I ask you the function of a sentence, right? So surroundings pe dhyan dena hai. Because whenever something is written, it is written to in the larger context to support something. Again, jo maine cheezein boli, support, contradict, etc., etc. Right? So B is the answer here. All right. So these were two structure questions. In one, we discussed the why of a paragraph. In one, we discussed the organization of the entire passage. So this helped us to sum up the skeleton of the entire passage. We also discussed things like why has this been written? So the why or the function of this sentence, this quote, right? We talked about key ideas and supporting ideas. We talked about the tone of the author in this paragraph, right? And how the author then goes to a larger central argument. Okay, I hope these things are clear to you. Okay. So this was the purpose of today's discussion. Now, I talked to you about Stoicism yesterday, and I asked you to find out more about it. Anybody who has found it, or anybody who knows the meaning of the word Stoic? So, vocabulary word for you today, Stoic or Stoicism. Okay, sure, repeat. Stoicism. Acha, I'm just about to end the session, don't worry. Okay, so let's discuss this very quickly. Stoicism, it means a stoic person is somebody who has forbearance, बहुत बर्दाश्त है, ना बहुत खुशी में बहुत ज्यादा खुश हो जाता है, ना दुख में बहुत ज्यादा दुखी होता है. So this person has a lot of forbearance, bardasht. Okay, so that is the meaning of Stoicism. Okay, you can search more about it. There's still more about it that you can learn, right? So those two things, left, right, center, you have to find out. You have to find out why we have used have with government. And the most important for today, pick up one article today, read it at your comfort zone speed. Okay, so I'm not after speed right now. Notice the relationships among various ideas or paragraphs while you are reading. Okay, notice them, how they relate to each other. After reading, jot down its key ideas briefly. So those of you who are not comfortable to jot down the key ideas without seeing the article can even see the article while jotting down the key ideas for this exercise, just for this exercise. And then indicate the relationships that you observe through arrows or other markers. Basically, आपको एक flow chart, एक skeleton बनाना है आज एक article का. Pick up any article from the list that we discussed yesterday, right? You can take the Guardian, you can take the NYT, the Hindu, anything will do. Okay. All right. So These are the details of our MAH CET crash course. I gave them to you yesterday also. If you're preparing for MAH CET, do enroll this. Right? These are our courses for June. Have a look. Click a picture. Okay. All right. The super subscription that we have. I think a lot of you are aware of it. Offers CAT as well as non-CAT courses. And this is our expert team. As I said, my picture will be up here soon. Right? And these are our super subscription plans for CAT 21 and CAT 22. Right? Okay. And this is, of course, very important if you're taking MAH CET. This is a free mock. Do take it, analyze it, ask me your queries if you have any. And do comment in the comment section. I want to know whether you've done this or not, whether you've prepared a skeleton or not. And I will message some of the links in the comment section for the articles that I gave you yesterday. Okay. And even the link for this article. Right? Okay. Free internet, and yes, please, very, very important. If you like the session, do press like, okay, do comment, do share it with your friends, okay. And of course, if you want to have such content, okay, receive such content, please subscribe to our channel, right? Okay. Anything that you wish to ask? Very good, Harpreet. That was the meaning of stoic. Pratishta, you are also correct. People who don't express emotions very easily. Right. Any queries? All right, then this was it from my side. I will see you next time. Please do your homework. Okay. Bye.